Hello everyone, we are back to the more standard booktube videos now that they won't just be all about Malazan, and I have other books to talk about, so this will be my wrap-up of February and what I hope to read in the month of March. The first book I completed in February was the 9th book in Malazan Book of the Fallen. And also by far my least favorite book in Malazan Book of the Fallen. Most of all the previous Malazans were both like easy 4.5 stars. Then Midnight Tides was like a 9.4. Loved Midnight Tides. Loved Memories. But this one, I don't know, it wasn't, instead of being the best Erikson book, it was the most Erikson book. It was all the things I don't like about the book, just like 211 in one book. I don't know if it had some really good stuff still, because it's a Malazan book, but I don't know if I've ever read a book that's more in their character's head, whilst I still feel like I don't know those new characters at all. So This was a slog to get through, but that's okay. It was worth it. So this was a 4.8 out of 10. If you ask me, like, if I couldn't say like more about it, did I like this book? It would be close to a barely yes, but the answer would be no. It'd be no with, yeah, okay, there was still this good thing and this good thing, but still, it was not a book I enjoyed reading. And yeah, it was by far my least favorite in the series, but we're gonna move on. Right after that, since it was supposed to be one book, it just got bound in two, we had, the much better second half of that book, I guess, which is The Crippled God by Steven Erikson, which was fantastic. The jump in enjoyment from like Dust of Dreams to Crippled God was huge. Oh, hello, Vin. Oh, never mind. She doesn't want to say hi to you all. That's unfortunate. Anyway, one of the plots I could not care less about in Dust of Dreams very early on in here became one of my favorite plots in the series. So much amazing character stuff, a great ending, some wonderfully epic stuff. The way things came together were just incredibly well done. There were parts of it in the middle that were not my favorite. I didn't think it was a perfect book. It wasn't going to be like a 10 out of 10, but it was a very, very good book, and any issues I had with it were trivial. So The Crippled God got a 9.3 out of 10. Just a wonderful book, a great end to the series. Not quite my favorite in the series, but a top 3 entry in Malazan. After finishing that, I went into Red Sister by Mark Lawrence. I'm reading Grey Sister now. There's not going to be a review of this on the channel, just because for this book alone, I just don't have enough to say about it to justify its own review. There will be a trilogy review when I finish the trilogy. This book was pretty good. I didn't think it was anything like uniquely amazing or anything. It was a 6.8, so it was in the range where it's like, yeah, I definitely liked it. Protagonist was good, like Nona, well realized. The other characters, I can tell who they are. I wasn't particularly attached to any of them. I wasn't like have any emotional moments really coming down the stretch at all. The only emotional reaction it got is at times it was like, all right, that was really cool. It got that was really cool. Writing wise, it's pretty good, but it's in the prose that falls in the range of good enough. overall, I mean, people had said this was a slower start. Start didn't bother me that much. I guess at the start, it's not quite totally linear. So some people find the start confusing. I don't know. The start was fine. Like, it wasn't a difficult book to get into, but I wasn't that emotionally invested in it. It was an above average fantasy book, but I've heard Grey Sister's better. I'm really early on Grey Sister. I'm on like page 30. It's a good start, but I just didn't have enough to say about this book in general. I see why people like Nona. Nona's a good protagonist, probably, and the world is really interesting. I will give it credit for the world, the idea of like a planet that is starting to like freeze to death in just this little corridor in the equator. Really interesting world, but overall 6.8 out of 10. Pretty good fantasy book, definitely above average. I would never consider giving it like 5 stars or putting it on like a top book list. But I've heard book 2 and 3 are better, so we'll see. So, for the final book, which technically I finished in March at like 3 a.m., but whatever, I'm counting it as February, is Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb. And basically, this will get a review because as of now, this is now my favorite book of all time. I gave this a 10 out of 10, and I didn't really need to think about it that much after reading it. I was also told this had a rough start. No. Not really, just didn't have any problems with it. Characterization was off the charts amazing. Like, I felt like I knew all the characters in this by like 10 pages into each POV. Then I knew the protagonist of Red Sister Nona, which, I mean, that isn't because the characterization in that is bad, it's just because the characterization in this is just off the charts fantastic. So many characters who are so human. And it's so brilliant. And like I'd say like also the amount of emotional moments in this book, I literally couldn't count them. Like, someone told me like, what are your favorite moments in the book? And I'm like, I probably have 50. If I open to a random page, there's probably something great on that page. That, like, I'd say more than 50% of pages just like individually had something great on it. This is people are telling me this is the worst in the trilogy. What? What is going on? So anyway, Words of Radiance was my favorite book for 7 years. If this is the worst in my trilogy, it's going to be my favorite book for like 7 days. I don't know. Probably a little bit more than 7 days, but not long. If that's the case, that would be insane. Live Ship has jumped straight from I'll read it, but I'm more excited to get to Tawny Man to this could end up being my favorite series of all time. So this is how I ended the month. The queen of the genre. Basically, it's like, so Hobb books are pretty depressing, but it's like the happy moments you get hit so much harder, and it's just brilliant. So good, man. You guys got to read Hobb. Just add Hobb to your TBR. Just do it. So that ends the wrap-up section. We got 4 books. Average rating of about 7.7, which is pretty usual. It's just usually they're more clustered around the middle of 7.7 and not one below 5 and a 10, and a 9.3. Anyway, mixed. It was a mixed month, but any month where I get a new favorite book ever and finish Malazan is by default a pretty damn good month of reading. Let's talk about what I plan to read in March. So for March, since none of the books are Malazan, I'm obviously planning to read more than 4 books. And the first book is going to be Grey Sister by Mark Lawrence. The follow-up to Red Sister. a lot of people I know who are mad on Red Sister really like Grey Sister. Sometimes I kind of wanted to just go straight into Mad Ship, but I decided to continue my plan of alternating Realm of the Elderlings and something else. Just because it's what I just kind of want to do, even though I do want to read Mad Ship. But I also do want to read other... I don't want to just read... if I was just reading Realm of the Elderlings straight, I feel like I'd want to put off the series. Because I just read Malazan straight, and 2 series straight back-to-back just doesn't sound appealing to me, even if this series second is started really, really well. Obviously, I read the first year earlier, but anyways, we're going to go with Grey Sister. Obviously a pretty small book, so I expect to get this done pretty quickly. After that, we have the book that maybe I have the highest expectations for of any book I've ever read, because everyone tells me it's better than Ship of Magic, and Ship of Magic was my favorite book ever, but I will of course be reading The Mad Ship by Robin Hobb. I am very, very, very excited for this. I cannot wait. It's going to be great. I expect to read it faster than the page count would tell me I should, despite the fact that Rob's books are not supposed to be page turners. Funnily enough, like Ship of Magic, even though it's a really slow-paced, character-driven book, somehow also managed to, with long chapters, somehow also managed to be a page turner. Like, the tension in that book was incredible. Everything in that book was incredible. Anyways, my expectations for this book are through the roof. And then, after Mad Ship, I have been told I will read Ship of Destiny right away. Like, I've been told it's what I'm going to end up doing. We'll see. But the next 2 books I read after, in whichever order it ends up going, is going to be Ship of Destiny and Holy Sister. I'm reading 2 trilogies right now, so I'll be completing them at the same time. Book of the Ancestor I think is going to be a pretty good series, but Live Ship might end up being my favorite series ever. So, kind of sucks for Mark Lawrence, because Mark Lawrence's writing is good. He has good prose, but when I go from Hobb and I started reading Grey Sister, it's like, you can immediately tell it's like this. It just doesn't flow as well. Anyway, it's still good writing. It's just any writing I read next to Hobb, next to Ship of Magic, would have felt disappointed. But I do hope to get both these trilogies done this month. I actually think I'll do that pretty easily. I read non-Malazan a lot faster than I read Malazan. So I should actually, and it's a slightly longer month, so I should get this done pretty easily, and then I want to read a couple other things. So after I'm done Book of the Ancestor and Live Ship, I will once again be starting 2 trilogies, and after that will be The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. This is the first book I've heard relatively mixed things about. Some people seem to absolutely love it. I'll probably give it till at least book 2, maybe, potentially, because everyone seems to like book 2 more than book 1. But I've heard some people are very mixed on this. Like, this is something where people I normally agree with have given this both 5 stars and 1 star. So, we'll see. Obviously, it's a grimdark book, but, I'm excited to get into it. Sounds interesting. And then I'm going to be continuing, obviously, at the same time with Realm of the Elderlings. And this is the book I'm kind of expecting to be on when March ends. Fool's Errand, which is book 1 in the Tawny Man trilogy, which I'm expecting to make me very sad because it's a Fitz book. But that's just how it is sometimes. And then, obviously I'll be doing the same thing I did with Book of the Ancestor and Live Ship. I'll be alternating Tawny Man and Poppy War. But I don't expect to get past this in March. So that's the wrap-up and TBR. As always, in the comments, if you've read any of these books, wrap-up or TBR, let me know what you think. And for TBR, whether you think I will like it. And if any of you skip Live Ship, I will send a glowing bald assassin to where you live. Okay, I won't really do that. Don't take that serious. I mean, glowing bald assassins don't exist. Whatever. Don't skip Live Ship. I'll find out about it. And I won't let you get away with it. Because it's so good. It's so good.